Guys, I think the Base chain, Coinbase's chain, is going to produce more millionaires this bull cycle than any chain. More than Ethereum, more than Arbitrum, more than Optimism, more than any layer 2, more than any layer 1. Base is about to explode, and in this video, I'm going to give you undeniable proof as to why. We're going to dive into the Coinbase fundamentals, how they're an octopus with their tentacles in a lot of different places, and we're going to compare Base's launch to BNB's launch. I'm going to show you some projects that I'm looking at on Base. I'm going to give you guys everything in this video. So before we hop in, I do have to say none of this is financial advice. These are my own opinions, research, and they should be treated as such. All right. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the content. Okay, so let's start off with doing a little mini deep dive on Coinbase. So Coinbase is the largest American crypto exchange. And like I said, they're an octopus with their tentacles in multiple places, and they're aiming to be the compliant exchange, which makes a lot of people feel comfortable working with them and building on Base. And obviously, if we want crypto to be adopted by institutions are waiting on the regulators, right? And the fact that Coinbase is aiming to abide by the laws is good for crypto long term. So let's dive into this whole octopus narrative. Let's talk about some of their products and how much money they're making. So obviously they have the Coinbase exchange. And if you've ever bought anything on Coinbase, you know the fees are expensive for buying and selling, all of it. So they're making a killing on the fees from the exchange for retail users as well as institutional clients. And they also work with larger companies globally. They're establishing their global footprint. They're launching a global perp exchange, which will rake in fees. This is like a casino. And they're going to give institutions access to over 30 perpetual futures and spot markets, allowing for trading and strategy versatility. They also have their Coinbase wallet that connects to Coinbase. So my mentor used to always tell me, the confused mind says no. Coinbase is making this whole thing easy. They have a wallet, they have an exchange, they have a chain, and they're all interoperable. You're not gonna have to do all this bridging like you have to do on all of these other layer 1s and layer 2s. Not only that, but the Coinbase wallet, separate from Coinbase, they charge fees on that as well. And you can connect it to your Coinbase account, like I said, which makes it a lot easier, and you can actually save on fees if you have a Coinbase wallet versus if you're just sending it somewhere else. They are also an ETH 2.0 stake invalidator. So Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake, and now instead of you having to do computational work to guess a random hash and get a block reward, you stake your tokens, and that's how the lottery is determined, by people who are staking versus brute force computational power. So in order to run your own validator node, you have to have at least 32 ETH, or you can go the decentralized route and stake with Rocket Pool. You can have, point whatever ETH, and you kind of pool it with other people, and every time there's 32, they set up a new node. Well, Coinbase is offering the same thing, staking as a service. So you can send your Ethereum to Coinbase and stake it, and then they allow you to get some of the yield, but they're also taking some off of the top to get access to the service. And Ethereum does billions of dollars in fees. Another product that they're offering is they're the custodian for most of the Bitcoin ETFs, including BlackRock. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're the custodian for most of the ETH ETFs once they're approved. And I say when, not if. That's going to translate to more fees. And these are fees from institutions. Imagine the fees they're going to be making when institutions are diving into ETH and Coinbase is the custodian. Like back in the day, people used to say, oh, you'll never get fired for buying IBM. That's kind of what Coinbase is becoming in the crypto world. Another one of their products, they're a part owner in Circle, which owns the USDC stablecoin. And we made a video going into detail. Definitely give it a watch if you haven't. I think it's the best stablecoin video on the internet. It talks about how stablecoins is the best / most profitable business model in crypto right now. And just to show proof of this, USDC, they have a audit. They get audited every month. You can see the USDC in circulation, 32 billion. And you can see what they're holding. They're holding a lot of short-term treasuries. So the reason why this is one of the best business models in crypto is because when you deposit your US dollars onto Coinbase and you get a stable coin, they take your US dollars, they use it to buy US treasuries, and they're getting all of that yield on their own. Right now, the APY on short-term treasuries is like 5%. You compound that and it really starts to add up, especially as they have billions of dollars in treasuries. Like you can see the reserve assets they have, it shows the maturity date for all of the treasuries and how much is in them. Like guys, they're literally just taking your money and they're buying treasuries and they're getting money for free while you use the stable coin. And guess what? They also charge fees when you use the stable coin. So they're double dipping. And we went into much more detail on Tether and USDC and compared and contrast them in the video that I referenced. So give that a watch if you haven't. And now their new product, which has been a huge contributor to like a large amount of their revenue, we're going to go over their most recent earnings as well here in a bit. They have their layer 2 chain called Base, and it's built on the Optimism tech stack. Now, Base is a layer 2. So before we get into that, let me talk about what a layer 2 is. So there's 3 parts to a blockchain. You have consensus that says what's true, and for Bitcoin, this is proof of work. You have data, which is storage, and then you have execution, which is like your computational finality, transactions actually going through. You can think of it as the difference between pending and actual settle within a bank account on your bank statement. So most blockchains, they're doing all 3 of those things on the layer 1. But any blockchain is in the business of selling blocks, and there's only so much space in each block. And this is why in the peak of the bull market, Solana and Binance Smart Chain and these other chains with cheap fees were popular because Ethereum gas fees went through the roof, because it doesn't matter if you're minting an NFT, borrowing, lending on Aave, making a swap on Uniswap, all of those transactions are trying to get inside the next block. And you know what happens when you are bidding on getting into a block with limited space? The price is going to go up. Just like if there's only one plane flying from New York to San Francisco and it's a few amount of people bidding on those seats, they're going to go up. A layer 2 is designed to take the execution and roll up the transactions into the smallest packet of data possible, and they submit it to the layer 1 so that the layer 1 has more block space, so the fees are cheaper, right? And this plays on the blockchain trilemma. You have security, decentralization, and scalability, which is speed or transactions per second. Pick 2. Layer 2s are aiming to increase the transactions per second. Right now, Visa can do 62,000. Ethereum, before they went to E2.0, could do like 14. I'm not sure where they are now, but they're not where they need to be because the gas fees are still high. So to give you an analogy, you can think of it this way. Imagine going to your favorite bar, and every time you want to buy a drink, you have to get in line and swipe your card. If everyone did that, the line would be out the door. It wouldn't be as well of an experience because your friends that you want to talk to would be waiting in line. Like, it would just be a headache, versus you swipe your card once, you open a tab, every time you buy something, it gets added to your tab, and at the end of the night, you close everything out at once. This is exactly what layer 2s do, hence why they're called roll-ups. They're rolling up all the transactions, and they're submitting them all at once instead of each one transaction having to get in one little block. So Base is aiming to help Ethereum scale because it is a layer 2 built on Optimism, which is also an ETH layer 2. So Base is almost like a layer 2 built on top of a layer 2. Built on top of a layer 1. And I made a video talking about my layer 2 trading strategy. I think layer 2s are going to do really well this year. This is going to be the first bull market where layer 2s, actually have their time to shine, because Arbitrum and Optimism, the token wasn't around in the last cycle. It was mainly layer 1. So before we get any deeper into Base and the metrics, let's look at Coinbase's earnings and see how Base had an effect on it. So if you look here, their revenue for last quarter was $1.64 billion, up 122% since last year. Their earnings per share is $1.65, and this beat estimates by 59%. Their net income was $1.2 billion, trading volume 300 billion, and Wall Street is finally catching up that Base is a huge revenue driver for them. And before we get into it, it's worth noting that the numbers were calculated by subtracting Base's expenses from the revenue to get net profits, then deducting 15% for the Optimism collective profit share. So Optimism gets a cut of the fees that Base gets since they're built on the OP tech stack. So the 15% profit share was already deducted on this chart. So you can see January 11, January 21st. And then as we got into March, things started to get crazy, and the profit was 956 million, cumulative revenue 18.2 million. So it's not like super crazy numbers, but guys, we're not even in the depths of the bull market yet. And there's a lot of building happening on Base. I think this will only increase. Now, guys, I have to stress this again. This is going to be Base's, Coinbase's layer 2. This is his first bull cycle. Really conceptualize that. I think it's going to do extremely well because crypto's more established. We have a Bitcoin ETF. We just had the halving. Interest rates are still high. It's an election year. We're about to get an ETH ETF. Institutions are more involved. This is going to be layer 2's first bull cycle. Layer 2s are a huge narrative. And we have evidence that Base will do well based on Binance. Like, Binance is proof that when an exchange, a major exchange, when I talk about KuCoin or anything like that, when a major exchange launches a chain, Binance launched BNB, they do really, really well because the exchange already has millions of users. So they're not having to start from scratch. So let's compare and contrast. So if we look at chains right now, you can see that the Binance Smart Chain is number 3. This is layer 2s and layer 1s. And you can see Base is number 6 behind Arbitrum, Solana, and Binance Smart Chain. If we click on Binance Smart Chain, you can see that right now they have a TVL of 6 billion. At the height of the last bull market, they were at pretty much $22 billion in total value locked. Guys, you have to keep in mind that Binance has been dodging regulators. So institutions and, you know, a lot of what would be legitimate companies and projects that attract a lot of TVL would not ever build on Binance because they don't know when things are going to get shut down. They don't know when regulators are going to get hard. They're, you know, changing their location every few months, it seems like. So they hit $22 billion and they were dodging regulators. Now, look at Base. They're only at $1.5 billion, guys. I think they're at least, this is Coinbase, I think they're at least going to get to 22 billion. I wouldn't be surprised if they got to 80 to 100 billion because institutions are going to feel comfortable building on Base. And I think more dApps are going to be built on layer 2s just because they're faster. We live in a microwave society where we want everything quick. So everything is lining up for Base to explode. And I hope you guys can see that here. We're still really, really early. Now, let's kind of talk about some of the opportunities that I'm looking at on Base to create life-changing gains. My largest allocation on Base is Axelar, and I made an in-depth video. I showed my take profit strategy and how I plan on turning 10K into 190K. I showed my step-by-step, and I showed how I would go about yield farming it to accumulate it passively. So I'm looking at Axelar. One of our coaches within Know It Owls, he's been in Aerodrome for a while. Members got the benefit from that. I called out Brett to my group, made some good money off that. I think meme coins on Base are going to do really, really well. Like, guys, believe it or not, like it or not, meme coins is the largest on-ramp to crypto. Like some people, I'll ask people like, would you rather buy Doge or ETH? Most people would say Doge just because it's what they hear about, or Shiba or something like that. There are other projects that I'm looking at on Base as well, but if you want to get access to our buy and sell calls, our yield farming course, our elite coaches, our elite community, click the link in the description and book a free strategy session, and we'll see if our program is a good fit for you. We don't let everyone in. We want to keep the community really clean and really strong. So having that said, I digress. Let me show you guys how I go about finding potential 100x projects before they 100x. Specifically on Base, but it works for other chains as well. So on Base, I'm looking at AI coins, we're looking at meme coins, we're looking at gaming coins, and RWA coins, but you know, it seems like most of the RWA coins aren't being built on Base, but that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm focused on, Base and RWA. So with that, I'd like to conclude this video. If you got value from this video, I ask you to consider subscribing, drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know what layer 2 you want me to cover, what Base topics you want me to cover, whatever the case is, yield farming. I'm here to provide value to you guys, so just let me know. But with that, I thank everyone who tuned in. I love every single one of you who's watching right now, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and trade safe.